So, the most important thing in SAT English, especially in SAT reading, would be vocabulary section. So, why do we need vocabulary? Why do we need to understand new words and their meaning? Because if we understand words, if we understand the meaning of them, we can basically understand the whole text. And if we can understand the text, we can answer the question. And if we can answer the question, we can get it right. So basically, that's our goal. That's why we learn vocabulary. But the biggest mistake in students is would be reviewing, like repeating the words again and again. Yes, it does work. I mean, this strategy basically works for many people, but it's not effective because in SAT and SAT English, we have to learn a lot of words. We have to know a lot of words to get a high score. And if we spend our time like learning by repetition, we cannot like learn them effectively. Even if we learn them, we might forget them easily. That's why mnemonic comes to our way. So mnemonic, if you don't know, it's basically a way to remember complicated stuff or anything that you want to remember. So let's say if you want to remember new words, if you want to remember like numbers, or if you want to remember foreign words, this technique is basically really important. And the technique that I'm going to teach you would be what's called ICH. But before that, let me tell you the power of mnemonic. There was one girl who set the world record for remembering new words, and she could learn around 67 new words with example, with definition, with synonyms, antonyms, and pronunciation in just 5 minutes. So that's how powerful this technique is. Even the world records for remembering numbers, different things, were set by this technique. So it's not just a basic rote learning that you learn at school. Okay, so ICH, let's talk about it. It stands for imagination, character, and harmony. So I stands for imagination, C stands for character, and H stands for harmony. So the most important thing in mnemonic would be imagination. We humans are really good at remembering visual things like pictures, photos, and videos, but unfortunately, we are bad at learning stuff like numbers and text. We are really bad at remembering them. So we have to use our imagination to its full potential if we want to remember as many words as we can. So the more unusual the imagination is, the more unusual the image in your mind is, the better and the longer that you will remember that for the long term. Okay, so why does this work biologically? In our brain, we have a lot of neurons, so billions, hundreds of billions of neurons. So the moment the unusual thing happens, the moment we see this kind of image in our mind, these neurons get closer to each other. In other words, they are triggered. And the closer they get to each other, we will remember that information for the longer period. That's why we have to make the images in our mind more unusual. And that's the biological explanation of it. And C stands for character, as I said, and H stands for harmony. Let's talk about it in a practical way. So whenever you see a new word, whenever you need to learn a new word, you have to visualize. First step is you have to visualize the definition of a new word. In other words, you have to come up with a good image, like a physical, unusual image of the word that you want to learn. It's good and it's really easy for learning simple words like table, chair, washing machine, or whatever it is. But it's a bit hard for words that we learn in SAT because the words we learn in SAT are abstract. So that's why it makes them a bit hard to understand and visualize. So you have to come up with some kind of physical images as much as you can. Okay. The second step is basically you have to come up with the closest sounding word for the word you need to learn. So pay attention to the closest sounding. So the word that you need to pick should be sounding really close to the word that you need to learn. And you have to also bring that image to your mind. Like you have to bring the image of closest sounding word to your mind as well. That is the character part. So the first step was imagination, like visualizing the definition of a new word. Second step is you have to come up with the closest sounding or character for the word you want to learn. And the third, the next step is basically associating the come up word with the original word. Like you have to make the come up word with the original word in move. You have to like bring them together in one image in your mind. You have to make them unusual. You have to make them move in your mind. You have to make some kind of video, like short video in your mind, in other words. And the last step, it's optional, by the way. You have to articulate the closest sounding word with the original word. Like you have to repeat the come up word with the original word a few times. So let's see it in a practice. Let's say you want to learn the word portakal. So if you know Turkish, you probably have guessed or know the meaning of this. So in Turkish, portakal means orange. It's not like color orange, it's basically fruit. So try to imagine like the word orange to your mind. Try to bring it. So it's not just a normal orange. Try to imagine a light blue, a really huge orange with hands and legs. Okay, so I hope you brought it to your mind. That was the first step, like bringing the image of the definition. Second step, what is it? You have to come up with the closest sounding word for the word you need to learn. So what are the closest sounding words to the word Portugal? It might be Portugal, it might be portal. So I would choose portal in this case. So you have to bring this image to your mind as well. What is portal basically? Portal is basically like a loop, and inside it we have usually black holes. So if you go through it, you can go to another place, like through teleportation. So try to imagine that light blue, huge orange with hands, legs coming out of the portal, like coming out of it, really scary orange. So I hope you brought it to your mind. Now, try to articulate the close sounding word with the original word. Try to say portakal, portal, portakal, portal, portakal, portal, like a few times. And whenever you see, whenever you hear the word of portakal next time in Turkish, you will bring the portal to your mind. Portal would come to your mind, and with the portal, you would see the orange coming out of it. And you would say, yeah, the portakal meant orange. That scary blue with hands, legs, orange. So that's one example, but for SAT words, it's a bit more complicated. So you have to be patient with those words. You have to come up with the closest sounding words as much as you can, because that's a bit tough part. At the beginning, you will have some struggles. You will definitely have difficulties with adapting to this strategy, but I promise if you learn and if you can adapt to this strategy, you will remember way more words than you can imagine. So let's talk about the part 2 of remembering words. Okay, you used mnemonic to remember words. What's the part 2? Part 2 is basically remembering the words. After some certain amount of time, you will definitely forget some words you learned. And there was basically research done on the human memory. The one scientist, I cannot remember the name, but he came up with random words he created and gathered a sample of people. And he gave these words to the patients, I mean to those sample of people. Then he asked them after a certain amount of time, after some intervals. And he noticed that after some certain period of time, they forgot a huge part of the information. They couldn't remember the words. So the research findings suggest that after 60 minutes, they forgot like around 60–70% of the words. After 1 hour, they forgot 80, and after 1 day, they forgot almost more than 90% of the information. So it's not true for mnemonic. It's basically less steeper, as you can see. This one is mnemonic curve. This one is forgetting curve. But mnemonic is mnemonic. You can remember it for the longer term, but anyways, you will forget it. So how do we solve it? You have to review the words in some intervals. So the interval that I like to use is called 137, 14, 30. So try to review the words or the set of words you learned after 1 day, after 3 days, after 7 days, after 14 days, and after 30 days. Ideally, you have to review them in the morning. So after one day after you learn the new word in the morning, remember to review it. After 3 days, after 7, and so on. And how do you review? You have to basically create flashcards. If you don't know what flashcards are, they are basically set of cards. And on the front page of the card, you write the original word, let's say portakal here. And on the back side of it, you would write definition, example, synonyms, and antonyms. So you have to create a lot of them. And whenever you're free, whenever you're tired, just play with them. Take any kind of card you want and test yourself, like review them. And that's much more playful and fun, and also really effective way to review your words. By the way, last thing that I want to mention, not the last thing, but next thing, it would be setting a timer for 20 minutes. So set a timer for 20 minutes and come up with as many characters as you can for the new words. Because, as I said, the hard thing about this strategy might be coming up with closer sounding words. So please set a timer for 20 minutes and push yourself and try to remember as many characters as you can. I mean, come up with as many characters as you can, okay? And the last thing that I want to finish up with would be which words should we learn. I am giving basically 10 words for each lesson from common 400 SAT words. There are basically 400 common SAT words that appear on SAT regularly, and I'm giving 10 words each lesson from these words. So please learn these words every single day and do the quiz, because you will actually review and also you will test yourself with the quiz. So in the bot, we have the quiz for vocab. And other than that, you have to learn words that appear on the text. Please learn new words, especially in words in context questions, because these words might play like 10, 20 points if you don't know that. So please do that. Like, learn new words that come on the text and don't ignore them. Don't just stick to 400 words because they are not enough. So if you want to score really high, you have to focus on vocab. You cannot ignore it. So these are the strategies that are used in remembering words effectively. So if you use them, like if you use these strategies, I guarantee that you will be the master of vocab. So thank you very much. That was it for our section.